Do British people really love gardening? Do people love gardens more than anything else? This episode of the English Right Now podcast is talking all about gardening, and it's based on a student's question. We'll read that question in a moment. Now, welcome to the English Right Now podcast, an English learning podcast in which we teach you at least 10 pieces of vocabulary related to the topic. We say at least because it's a real conversation with my dear friend Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very, very well. I'm excited about this question. How are you today? How's life?
I'm okay, thank you very much. Looking forward to talking about this and then getting back to my garden, to attend my garden.
Well, we already know where you stand. And if you want to learn even more about this subject that we're talking about today, gardening, there is a link below in the description where you can learn even more. So the other day, there was a question from one of the students of my course, The Ultimate British Pronunciation Guide, and she asked this question. When I was at school, I learnt in English class that English people had a great passion for gardening. Is this still the case? On this subject, I learnt a saying that English men preferred their garden first, then their dog, and finally their wife. So basically garden, dog, wife. But perhaps gardening in the UK could be subject of a future video on your YouTube channel about English and gardening and the traditions on this subject. Would you say in your life it is garden, dog, and wife? Let's address that one first.
Oh.
I've never heard this saying.
No, you put me on the spot a bit, and I don't have a dog, so my wife can come second.
See, for me, I find it quite funny, and I immediately said there is no way that my dog is below my garden. That was the first thing I responded to this question. I thought, no. So it's definitely, a garden for me is number 3. My wife is sitting right next to me. So I would definitely put dog and wife together at the top.
Together, right, okay.
There'll be a cut in the moment in this podcast. I have a black eye, but no, definitely wife, dog, garden. And I do love my dog.
But gardens are up there, though, with in the top 3. I think British people do like their gardens. Not everybody, just a disclaimer, not everybody has a garden, but a majority of British people, I think, do have a garden because we tend to live in houses, don't we, rather than lots of flats and apartments.
A lot of people do tend to their gardens. They take care of their gardens. But I was going to say, this is something that I started to think about when you said, it's up there. I think there are a lot of other passions as well. And I think that gardening is something that you grow into. This is I honestly feel the older you get, roughly around your 40s, maybe not for everybody, but around your 40s, when you start to get to that age, you start to appreciate your garden a bit more. I think when I was younger, the idea of gardening was awful. When I was like in my teens, I didn't want to garden. There's no way I didn't want to garden. I didn't want to do the gardening. I don't know. Have you always had a passion for gardening? Is it just me?
No, you're right there, Roy. I think maybe when you're younger, you have better things to do. You have different priorities. You want to go out and have fun. But obviously, as you get older, you might own or rent a house that has a garden. So obviously, the garden needs to be looked after. And you have more free time, maybe, or you want to relax more. And gardening's quite a relaxing activity. You don't want to be out all the time partying and stuff like that. So it's a more relaxing activity.
It can be hard work, though. It can be really hard work. That's something I'm going to say, especially if you've got quite hard soil. So where I live, there's quite a lot of clay in the soil. So to dig it, it's a real effort. But yeah, it can be quite relaxing. I mean, you have a garden, big garden, small garden?
It's a very small garden, I have to admit, but it's big enough for me and the family, because a big garden does involve a lot of work, a full-time job almost, trying to keep it well maintained, looking good. So we have a small garden, the size of a sort of a handkerchief, tiny garden. It's enough space to sit in, play in, and have a few plants and weeds.
Nice. No, of course. And that's one of our key pieces of vocabulary, weeds. So weeds are these unwanted plants that grow among your flowers and sometimes crops if we're talking about food. And then weeding is the action of removing these weeds. So we say the weed is the plant itself, and you weed. That's the verb as well. You can weed out something, maybe. So yeah, I mean, do you spend a lot of time weeding your garden?
Yeah, I think weeding is the biggest problem in all gardens because weeds seem to grow anywhere and everywhere, and they grow easily. They seem to grow more easily than the actual flowers and the plants. So it's always a full-time job trying to pick them out and get rid of them. The other problem we have, because we have a number of trees overlooking our garden, of course, all the leaves fall down in the autumn, and the garden gets covered in leaves. So you have to sweep them up.
Yeah. See, we're not covered by trees, but the trees that are near us are they're evergreen trees, which means the leaves don't fall. So we have evergreen trees where their leaves don't fall at any time. They're evergreen, always green. The trees you're talking about are what we call deciduous trees, which their
Yes.
leaves fall due to seasonal change. And
Yeah.
it's awful. At first, it's quite pretty because you've got these beautiful sort of brown leaves on the ground, and you can hear it when you walk. It's like, and then the rain comes, and it turns into this disgusting mess. That's the problem for me. It's like rain plus leaves is horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's I mean, that's the first thing. We weed our gardens, but there's a lot more we can do in our garden. I'm going to say as well, I'm going to put this out there as well. Be careful with the word weed because it can also be used as a slang term for cannabis. Some people refer to it there. So I'm just going to say that as well. So if you say you're growing weed in the garden, there's a very different, people may take it a little bit differently, but weeds themselves with that S on the end does refer to that. And you can say it is a weed. It happened the other day, you know, my son has grown this he's developed an interest in gardening, and he wanted to plant some bulbs. So the plant can be the thing as well, much like weeding actually. And if you plant it, you put it in the ground. You plant it in the ground, and we put some bulbs, which are kind of sort of bigger seeds, if you like. We put them in the ground, and he got really excited. He was like, look, daddy, they're growing. And it was just weeds. And I didn't have the heart to tell him. I thought, oh, mate, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So now I removed the weeds, and then I've put a couple of plants in, so it looks like they've really grown. He's only 7, so he's quite excited.
But I do find the best part of the year is probably springtime when the plants start, or the flowers start flowering, don't you? And we get things like daffodils, the yellow flower, snowdrops, those sort of things, when the garden actually comes to life. And then you realize all that work you put in the year before is worth it because the flowers start, I say, blooming.
Yeah. They do. I mean, we're talking about this kind of idyllic garden. We're gonna talk about like the grassy area in a garden is called a lawn. This is a key piece of vocabulary. And one of the tools that we use to keep that lawn short is a lawn mower. So we mow the lawn to mow the lawn. And we keep that lawn quite short. Mine went wild. But a lot of gardens, before we start talking about some really key vocabulary again, a lot of gardens around me are either they use paving slabs, so they are just basically stone squares on the ground, or they are made of the gravel. They're covered in gravel, which are those tiny stones. A lot of people choose to put gravel on their garden because it's low maintenance. That's very typical. So this idea of all green and kind of things, a lot of people think it looks beautiful, but they don't have the time, so they choose gravel, or they choose concrete, or they choose slabs. Have you got a patio at yours?
I have a small patio, and then I have another confession, Roy. We don't have a real lawn, real grass. we got rid of the grass because the grass grow very well, and I say because of the trees, it just turned into mud rather than grass. So we got rid of that, and we have some artificial grass, astroturf.
Fake grass.
You get on an artificial football pitch, and it's perfect. It's low maintenance, as you mentioned, so it doesn't need cutting. You can sit on it without getting muddy, and the kids can play football or whatever they want on it. So we have the artificial grass, and then when they do have flower beds, you know, the borders around the edge of it with real plants in. I'm glad to say.
So this is the second key piece of vocabulary: a flower bed. So we're going to talk about a few things. Flower bed is basically a section of the garden, usually bordered either by pieces of wood or pieces of stone. So it's like a little sort of boxed area where flowers are planted. And that's really cute. We've got a couple of flower beds that have been taken over by weeds. So one thing that my wife and I have sort of started to enjoy is kind of pottering around the garden. To potter, to potter around. This is a beautiful piece of vocabulary. If you potter around the garden, it means you do small, kind of relaxed tasks in the garden without rushing, and it's often just for pleasure. So it's not like digging out the ground or kind of building a structure. It's maybe putting a few plants in, but it's very relaxed to potter around. Do you enjoy pottering around the garden, or?
Oh, I've enjoyed it more and more as I've got older, to potter around, to wander around the garden. Yeah, as
Doing
you
a
say,
few.
move things around a bit, maybe doing a bit of tidying up, but doing it very casually. And then, of course, sitting down with a cup of tea in the garden chair and just admiring your garden, just sitting there and just enjoying the view.
I love this idea. What's Rob doing now? Oh, he's just pottering around the garden. He's just it's such a great expression. It's like it's the kind of thing your mum will tell you about your dad. This is the one thing I think. Like I'd say, oh, how's dad? Oh, he's just pottering around the garden. Like it's his only domain. This is something I always remember my mum saying. I'd call up when I went to university. I went to university in the north of England, in Leeds. And I'd call my mum and dad and I'd say, oh, how's my dad? Oh, just pottering around the garden. And I think it's a kind of a lovely thing. Would you call yourself green fingered?
No, definitely not.
No.
If you mean am I an expert in gardening, basically?
Yeah.
I'm not. No, it's kind of trial and error. I'll put something in the ground and hopefully it will grow.
Green fingered is one of our key pieces of vocabulary. It's an adjective and it means naturally good at gardening and things, and they can sort of make plants grow easily. I'm definitely not. My wife 100% is not. She's probably killed more plants than she's that she's had in her life. I can't work it out. But yeah, so I try to be green. I wish I were, but yeah, it's not my forte, sadly.
Yes.
This is the thing, and it's but yeah, there's certain other things we need to talk about in the garden. So in my garden, I've got a small area of grass in the back garden. I've got some decking, which is a wooden structure. I've got fences all the way around, which are wooden fences. If we say a wooden fence, it's this idea of the wooden border around the garden. The alternative would be a wall, which are made of bricks or stone. And then I have a garden shed, which we're going to talk about shortly. But I also have a composter where I sort of create compost. Have you got anything to do to make compost in your garden?
Well, interestingly, we haven't mentioned this yet. I have a separate garden across the road called an allotment. This is a rented space where we can grow vegetables. It's not like a garden where you grow plants and flowers. It's actually specifically for growing things you can eat, like vegetables. And there, yes, we have a compost bin. So we put all our old food. You can actually put egg cartons in as well. You know those
Can
things.
You really?
Yeah, because they decompose and it makes compost, which you can then, after a long time, you can get it out, put it onto the garden, and it helps the garden grow.
Yeah, and you meant to mix it, aren't you? It's like green waste and brown waste or something. It's like green waste is all your food, and brown is kind of your paper and things like this, and coffee, and you meant to add water to it. It's quite. My compost has gone terribly wrong. It just stinks. So compost is a key piece of vocabulary, as is allotment. Compost is decomposed organic waste, like food scraps and garden clippings, and it's used to enrich the soil. So it's making it kind of a better quality soil. And it does look brown and black and kind of when it's finished decomposing. And the allotment, as you say, is a key piece of vocabulary. This is a plot of land, often rented from the council, and it's used for growing fruit and vegetables. Could be for flowers, but more commonly it's for food. Your garden at home is for pleasure, and the allotment is for food. What do you grow in your allotment?
Oh, we've got lots of vegetables like cabbages, broad beans, runner beans, Brussels sprouts, and then we have some fruit like raspberries and strawberries. I could go on, but that's the highlights.
I'm coming up. When do they come into kind of? When do you
more or
harvest
less
them?
summertime into the autumn.
Right.
I have to say we haven't got enough vegetables to feed the family for the whole year. We
Oh,
might have one. It's a lot of work, and then
yeah.
you get 1 or 2 kind of meals out of it.
God. I think that's the thing that puts a lot of people off of gardening. There's a lot of work that goes into it. I mean, when it's done, a garden can look amazing, but I think there is a sort of leaning now towards low maintenance gardens. You've got astroturf. I'm considering gravel on the front of my garden because it's, by the you don't need as many tools if you've got this kind of low maintenance stuff. So you mentioned the shed earlier, which is
Mm,
or I did, somebody did, maybe I
you
just
did.
thought about it, but it's the wooden building in the garden, a wooden structure where you store your tools. So let's talk about a few typical tools. You've got a watering can,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah.
like a kind of container that you water. That's a verb as well, to water the plants. What other tools do we have in the shed?
We've got a trowel.
It's like a big kind of spoon, and you dig out the ground and then you put your plants in, and it's one for your hand.
Yes.
What other tools have we got?
Or gardening gloves as well. Quite good to have a
Yeah,
pair of gardening gloves because your hands get quite mucky. You get dirt under your fingernails, don't you? So if you wear some gloves, that keeps your hands clean, of course.
and they're
Uh,
quite thick as well, which keeps your hand quite safe. I've got a
yes.
rose in the garden, and it's
Oh yeah.
garden gloves are important.
Yeah.
Gardening
Then we've,
gloves
we've
very
got
important.
a spade and a fork for the bigger
Yep,
jobs when you really need to dig a big hole or you need to uh, dig up some roots and stuff like that. So
yeah.
spade and a fork are very important. Yeah.
So a
Uh,
fork looks like a fork that we eat with, doesn't it? It's kind of got four prongs or
Much
four
bigger.
tines, and it goes into much bigger. I wouldn't eat with that. Ah. But and that kind of that can also sort of we dig out. It's quite easy to kind of dig out roots, as you say, or stones and get under things. Spade is more for digging up a piece of earth, and maybe quite a large amount, or turning over earth. We've got a shovel as well for
Mm,
really kind of turning over things or scooping up things, which is like a big spade with slight sides on.
yeah.
You've got lawnmower. We've also got what else have we got
We've
in
got
the shed?
a rake, which is good
Yes,
for picking up leaves or scraping up the leaves off the ground, or for leveling off the earth. And if you want to get some
yes.
stones out, again,
You
it's
could
got
use
these
a
teeth
hoe for that
in it.
as well, couldn't you? A
A
hoe.
hoe, you can use a hoe as well,
Yeah,
yeah. But the rake
which is
has
a
little teeth at the end, so
yeah,
you can pull it along the ground, and then it collects up big things like leaves or stones, things like that.
yeah. Now, I said earlier on I've got a rose in my garden. My wife loves our rose, but it gets a bit out of control.
Mm,
And I find that roses not enjoy. I'm not sure enjoy is the right word, but they appreciate being cut back.
yeah.
So the idea of cutting back a rose, if you are basically cutting pieces off and reducing the size, we call it pruning.
Mm,
Prune is cut back parts of the plant or tree, and it helps it to grow back stronger,
mm.
and it becomes sort of healthier. Have you got a rose?
We have a big rose bush actually growing up the
Oh,
side of the house. So we've got a pair of shears for that job of pruning,
yeah.
chopping down or chopping branches off to
They're like big scissors, aren't they?
yeah,
That you
yeah,
use with two hands.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's exciting. So you've got a climbing rose.
That's right.
Is it growing up something, or has it got a trellis to grow up,
There's
which is like kind of
trellis. Yeah, there is a bit
yeah,
of trellis on the wall, which is this kind of wooden. How do you call it? A kind of wooden frame on
yeah.
the wall, so it can grow up and through it and along it, which means it doesn't just flop down onto the ground. So it's growing up the side of the house, and this time of the year it produces beautiful little pink roses.
Oh, nice. We got sort of big red traditional kind of roses
Okay.
on ours, and Luciana, she's with me now. You love them, don't you? that was the most. That's the most. And she's like, yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
She's busy working. She's busy
Okay.
working. I should never have disturbed her. I don't even know if that was picked up on the microphone. It was the most
Okay.
kind of non-committal yes I've ever heard in my life. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, everybody loves roses, especially on Valentine's Day.
yes.
Of course, a nice
Of
red
course,
rose.
of course.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think our rose will produce 12, a dozen red roses, as is traditional. And we're talking a bit more about things, and another piece of vocabulary before we move on to another topic about gardens is that if we put plants into pots, if we
Hmm.
move it from either one container to another container, we call it potting. So
Hmm.
to pot some plants or to uh, potting some plants.
Hmm.
Enjoy that activity? Use a trowel on that, do you? Or
That's right. Yeah, with some soil, put some compost and some soil into a pot. Pots are a great
yeah,
idea, actually. If you have a small garden, you haven't got much space to actually
yes.
grow something in the ground, you can plant flowers into pots and have a nice display of pots, can't you, outside the back of your house?
Or even if an indoor garden.
Yeah.
I know some people don't have the garden outside, but they kind of create a sort of indoor garden, which I think is quite nice with
Yes,
pots
and of
and
course,
stuff.
indoors you can have house plants, can't you? Which are
Yes,
plants that are designed to grow in the indoor environment. Yeah.
yeah. Those those are the ones that mainly suffer in my house. But yeah, so another way of watering things as well. By the way, we need to say before we sort of say this is hose pipe. Hose pipe. So it's a long kind of tube that's attached to your tap, and then you go and water the garden as well. So you could use a watering can, or you could use a hose pipe. We have hose pipe bans sometimes in the summer, which is
Yes.
basically where water companies say, "Don't water your garden. There's not enough water."
Exactly, because hose pipes do, when you're watering with a hose pipe, it does use up a lot of water. It's continually flowing. So yeah,
Yeah,
in dry periods like we're having at the moment in the UK, there are hose pipe bans. So you can't water with a hose pipe, but you can still use a watering can.
yeah. But I think there is. Would you say overall there is a bit more, especially with the younger generation, the new generations coming through? There's more of a kind of tendency to move towards low maintenance gardens than there maybe was in the
Yes.
1960s and 70s.
No, I agree with that, Roy. I think maybe it's just the skills haven't been passed on, so people don't know what to do or how to do it. Again, it's something maybe in retirement you can then learn again and learn these
Yeah.
skills, and you have more time to do it. But you're right. I think this generation aren't gardening as much. They've
The
got other
kids
things to do.
today.
No,
I,
but also I think gardening is can be quite expensive to buy a plant, and we tend to buy our plants, don't we, from garden centres. It's a
yeah,
sort of place where you can go and purchase bulbs, seeds, plants. It's quite expensive to actually do that.
yeah. This is the thing as well. I think society has somewhat changed. So maybe Marie Christine's question. This is the name of the person that asked. Marie Christine, thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Maybe the question back then of like garden dog wife was possibly more of a thing in the 1950s and 60s. I don't know. I can't remember, but I think society's changed somewhat. There are
Yeah.
more things to do. I think there's a few things because there was this stereotypical idea that a man and a wife, husband and wife, had a fight, and the husband would go and sit in the shed to kind of cool down. This was a thing that I grew up with. This idea. I never saw my dad do it, but I could imagine my granddad did it.
Mhm.
And I think these days men are encouraged more to talk. Still not enough, but we need to talk more, talk about feelings more, and express ourselves more. So maybe that going and sitting in a pub, sitting in a shed or a pub, isn't as kind of not acceptable, but encouraged as it once was. And I think
Mm.
we also have TVs and a lot more technology in the home to keep us occupied. And also, I think people generally have very busy lives these days.
Yeah.
Um, Work can be a huge, colossal amount of time with commutes and things like this.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't have as much free time, which is why we need low maintenance. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I still think though a garden is a great place to escape, to
Yeah.
to get away from
Oh,
the busy life and put your feet
yeah.
up and
I
just
love a
listen to
barbecue.
the birds. Listen to the birds, and yes, of course, gardens have other uses. Of course, we should
Yeah.
talk about than just growing plants. People use their garden for barbecues, so for cooking outdoors, don't they?
Hot tubs. A lot of
Hot
people I know have hot tubs to kind of sit in.
And a lot of families have a trampoline in the garden for the children to
Yeah.
bounce up and down on. Or in the summer, they have a paddling pool, this
Yes.
inflatable pool they fill with water to sit in. So it's a great family space.
And there are some one thing I would say as well. I mean, I used to joke, by the way, because my garden got so out of control at one point that I called it a nature garden, which meant I kind of used to, oh no, it's for the bees. It wasn't. It was because I was lazy. But I used to kind of sort of joke with people about that. But there are also some gardens you can go and visit
Hmm.
as well. So like sometimes royal gardens and like the kind of expertly maintained gardens. We have royal houses and kind of maybe residences. Like have you been to any of these kind of places? Any near
Yes,
you?
yeah. I mean, not far from here, there's Wisley Gardens, which are very
Oh,
famous gardens that are beautifully maintained. I mean, they're massive space, all different types of plants, different areas. So you've got sort of tropical plants in a hot house, and then you've got British plants, and then other plants, and it's so well maintained that it's
yeah.
actually a whole
It's
day
almost
out.
like art.
Yeah,
Oh, and you have some like you have Kew Gardens in London, which is a kind of undercover, and you have plants from all over the world. There's one on the Isle of Wight called Ventnor Botanical Gardens,
yeah,
which is quite a thing to see.
and
And
actually,
I think a lot of yeah.
I was going to say where I live here, there's a place called the World Garden, and
Oh,
the guy there has designed this big garden. It's in the shape of a map of the world, and
oh,
so where you've got South America, for example, he's planted South American plants, and
that's
then you
amazing.
and then you've got Europe, and he's got European plants, but it's all mapped out like a map of the world. It's quite famous, the World Garden. Yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think yeah, maybe we need to come and visit you, Rob. Like Luciana, we'll come together and we'll eat your vegetables from your allotment and. But there's a lot to say about gardening. I think gardening is a wonderful thing, and I think when we have exhibitions and kind of things like this that you can go to and see how other people garden. But I think for most people, it's a kind of thing you aspire to do. In my opinion, a lot of people aspire to have an amazing garden,
mm,
um, but they just want it as kind of. I think they almost want it done. It's a skill. It's a skill that hasn't been passed on, maybe, and it's a thing.
yeah,
Most of my friends, they all either get somebody to do the gardening. We call them a gardener,
yeah.
gardening services and things like this, or they just have gravel
Mm.
and concrete, so they don't need any more kind of work done.
Yes, and some people who have the money like to get people in to design a beautiful garden. They get landscape gardeners in, don't they, and design
Yeah,
the rockeries. Rockeries, little spaces with
yeah.
rocks, plants growing out of the
So much
rocks, and
vocabulary, isn't there?
a water feature like a little fountain
Yeah.
or something like that.
We haven't even
If it's
talked about a pond. We haven't
a
even talked
pond.
about a pond. The garden pond. That's something I do want. I want a frog pond. I
Yes,
think they're really, really cool. Garden pond with fish and frogs and things like this. The only problem is when you have small or young children, you have to be very careful
yeah, yeah,
because it's quite a hazard potentially.
yeah, yeah.
So you have to be very careful if you've got a pond in the garden.
Mm.
But yeah, I think overall, yeah, maybe I'm getting more into gardening, getting into it, starting to like, but still, yeah, I'm yeah, low maintenance is my preference.
Yeah, yes. It does require a little bit of elbow grease.
Yes, hard work, elbow grease, and a bit of TLC, tender loving care.
Yeah.
And about this subject, if you want to learn even more vocabulary related to the subject of gardening and things like that, please do check the link below. There is a link in the description for you to learn even more. But from me today, I just want to say thank you, Rob, for talking about your garden. I'm coming through your allotment,
It's been
and
a pleasure.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy. See you next time.
See you
Bye-bye.
next time.